Hi. Today we're going to be talking about clauses. I try to avoid too many technical terms in this class, grammatical terms, participial phrases, and whatnot, to try to keep things simple. But when it's really useful to know a certain term, then I go ahead and introduce it. And this is one of the cases. I really think it's very helpful for you to be able to identify what a clause is. So we'll be talking about that today. So basically, clauses are groups of words. There are two different major groups of words in English, a clause and a phrase. So a phrase is a group of words without a subject and verb. If you can't identify subjects and verbs, make sure you view my video on identifying subjects and verbs. But basically, if we look at the examples, a walk in the park, riding a bicycle on a country road, to view things from someone else's perspective. These are all phrases. They're groups of words. They're definitely groups of words, but they are not complete units of meaning. They do not have a subject and verb. On the other hand, a clause is a group of words with a subject and verb. And this is your basic complete unit of meaning in English. I walked in the park. I enjoy riding my bike on country roads. It is useful to view things from someone else's perspectives. Clauses can be very short. I ate, or they can be very long, but they're a complete unit. And what makes them a complete unit is they have a subject and a verb. Now, it looks like from these examples that a clause is the same thing as a sentence. You'll notice all my examples, those are also complete sentences. But it's a little more complicated than that because there are different kinds of clauses. The two major categories are independent clauses and dependent clauses. Independent clauses are groups of words that are complete by themselves, okay? So if I say, I walked in the park, that, like I said, is a complete sentence. I enjoy riding my bike on country roads. It's useful to view things from someone else's perspective. All of those are independent clauses because not only do they have a subject and verb, I walked, I enjoy, it is, but they also are complete by themselves. In addition, another kind of clause is a dependent clause. It has a subject and verb, but it is not complete by itself. So for example, because I walked in the park. Okay, it's a group of words, it's got a subject and verb, but it's not complete. Because I walked in the park, well, what? Even though I enjoy riding my bike on country roads, okay, what else? There's something else that has to go with that to make it complete. If it is useful to view things from someone else's perspective, there's got to be something else. So those are all dependent. They're clauses, they've got a subject and verb, they still have that unit of meaning, but they're not complete by themselves, so they're dependent. You'll notice the only difference between the independent clause and the dependent clause is that first word I put there in each of those dependent clauses, because, even though, and if. And this is one really helpful and easy way to be able to recognize a dependent clause. That these dependent clauses begin with what I call dependent words. The dependent word is also known as a subordinate conjunction in formal grammatical terms, but dependent word goes easy. It makes sense. It's easy to remember. And if I put one of these dependent words at the beginning of a clause, it'll make that clause dependent or not complete by itself, which is not necessarily a problem. It's really useful to use these dependent clauses, but just to be able to recognize that's the case. Putting these words at the beginning make it dependent clauses. So what are the words? What are the magic dependent words? Well, there's a list. It's a limited list. Looks like a pretty long list. Actually, a lot of the words are not that hard. You'll notice most of those WH words are on there. So, you know, not every WH word. Whiskey is not on there, but your where, wherever, when, those kind of words. There's a limited number of words. You notice as appears a lot of times, if and that appear a lot of times. So you can learn these. Actually, I memorized them one day when I came home from school. I learned it, and boom, I've used these every day of my life. So you can learn to recognize these dependent clauses. Why is it useful? Why spend your time learning and recognizing independent and dependent clauses? Well, one is you use them all the time. That's one reason. The other is these are your basic units of meaning, and it's from these basic units that you build up all forms of sentences. All sentences are ultimately reduced to these things. They're like your proton, neutron, and electron of your basic building blocks of matter. Another analogy is they're like your Lego blocks. When I was a kid, we only had two Lego blocks. We had squares and rectangles, and that was it. And from that, we were able to build a whole bunch of stuff. I know nowadays it's a little different, but still, having control over which block you're using helps you control what and how you're communicating. And skillful writers know how to put a certain kind of sentence structure in a certain place to communicate exactly what they mean. So I'm hoping you can learn that this semester. Another advantage of learning to recognize independent and dependent clauses is they will help you avoid common errors, especially fragments and run-on sentences. We'll be talking about that real soon. So I hope you can spend some time learning these, and it will be very helpful. Okay, take care.